Welcome to the Fishbowl with Jade. Thank you for being here. I don't take your presence lightly because time is something you can never get back. So go ahead, put on your scuba gear because today we're diving deep. Let me ask you something. If you knew your brother, your cousin, your friend was cheating on their partner, would you say something or would you stay quiet out of loyalty? I came across a post where a woman said she doesn't trust certain families because they call everybody sister in law. But what she meant went much deeper than the words. She was saying she doesn't trust the families of the men she dates because in some environments, there is no real loyalty to one woman. The family isn't loyal to you, they're loyal to whoever he brings around. And in some cases, he can bring multiple women around while still being in a relationship. And each one is welcomed, smiled at, and treated like she's sister in law, too. That's where the confusion comes in because the title sounds like acceptance, but the behavior reflects something else entirely. So now it's not just about what they call you, it's about what that title actually means. And that brings us to this word loyalty. Now, here's where it gets deeper. I watched a case that really made me think about this differently. A woman named Tina found out her brother Mark was cheating on his girlfriend Michelle with another woman named Julie. Mark confided in his sister. He trusted her with that information, but Tina didn't hold it. She went straight to Michelle and told her everything. Now, on the surface, that sounds like honesty. But what happened next? That situation escalated and it ended in something tragic. And that right there is where this conversation shifts because now we're not just asking, should you speak up? We're asking, are you prepared for what happens after you do? From a psychological perspective, this is where things get complicated. Loyalty pulls you one way, morality pulls you another, emotion creates urgency. And sometimes ego wants to be the one to expose the truth. But what people don't always consider is this. Once you insert yourself into someone else's relationship, you lose control of the outcome. And that's where boundaries come in, because there's a difference between addressing behavior and becoming part of the consequences. Now, let's talk about accountability on all sides. The person cheating created the situation. That was a decision. The family member who knows now has a responsibility to their integrity. But that doesn't automatically mean public exposure. Sometimes accountability looks like pulling them aside and saying, you need to handle this before it turns into something bigger. The partner who doesn't know is still showing up, smiling, being welcomed in spaces where people already know something they don't. And that's where things get heavy. And then there's the person on the outside. Because let's be clear, if you are knowingly entertaining someone who is in a relationship, especially within a space where family is involved, you are not separate from the situation. You are part of it. It's easy to say, I didn't make the commitment, but it's harder to say, I knew and still engaged. So now the question becomes, is it just the cheater who's guilty? Or does accountability extend to everyone who knowingly participates? Now let's take it a step further. Because this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable. Is it really betrayal if the people who stayed silent weren't blood? Because when you marry into a family, you gain access, but do you gain loyalty? Socially, many families operate on an unspoken hierarchy. Blood comes first, then everyone else. So even though you're called family, there are moments where you're treated like an extension, not a priority. Psychologically, people are more likely to protect those they have long-standing emotional bonds with. Shared history, familiarity, loyalty built over time. So when conflict arises between a sibling and someone who married in, the mind often defaults to, I've known them longer, I trust them more, I protect them first. And while that may be human, that doesn't make it right. Because when you accept someone into your family, there's a level of responsibility that comes with that. You may not owe them blind loyalty, but you do owe them honesty, respect, and integrity. So when someone says they didn't owe her anything, she's not blood, we have to ask, then what does family actually mean? Because you can't use the title when it's convenient and remove the responsibility when it's uncomfortable. And let's make this personal. If you found out your partner's family knew and said nothing, would you feel like they didn't owe you anything? Or would you feel like I was surrounded by people who let me walk in blind? That feeling, that's where people define betrayal, not just by who did it, but by who allowed it. So now we're left with this. Silence can be harmful, but so can reckless involvement. Speaking up without boundaries can create chaos. Staying silent without reflection can create complicity. So the real question isn't just, should I say something? It's, how do I handle this in a way that protects my integrity without creating more damage? Because not every truth needs an audience, and not every situation needs a third party. Sometimes the most powerful position is holding people accountable without inserting yourself into the explosion. So let me leave you with this. If loyalty is only guaranteed by blood, then what exactly are we calling family? Thank you for sitting in the bowl with me. Now let's come back up to the surface, decompress, reflect, and ask yourself, am I helping the situation or becoming part of the problem? Until next time, stay classy, stay curious, stay ever evolving.